So this, my friends, is Hatred. And Hatred is an isometric twin-stick shooter, although I play it with my mouse and keyboard, obviously. And it is mediocre. That's what it is. It is thoroughly alright. It is middle of the barrel, the blandest of bland. It is, ironically, for how much rage and dislike and outrage it caused, it is thoroughly acceptable in every single way. And I'm looking at this game, I'm looking at it because I'm a fan of murder. You should know that. My interests are simple. My needs are few. I enjoy murder. And the thing about it is, this isn't very good murder. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, see that execution that you just did there? There are like 12 of them in the entire game. And that gets old fast. It's one of these things of variety is the spice of life. When you are going to be doing nothing but killing people and executing people, and there's literally nothing else to do in the game, the actual act of killing people had better be so well done, so have such variety to it, have such appeal.
My name is not important. What is
that
important is what
it makes it worthwhile playing the game.
just fucking hate this.
It's like in Condemned. Condemned did the visceral feeling of grabbing a steel pipe and bashing the teeth out of a homeless man. Great, very true to life.
This is the time of vengeance, and no life is worth saving.
It made you for whatever reason. It made you feel like you were actually doing what you were doing. And if that was the experience you wanted, then that was great. I mean, if you wanted to feel like you were beating random people to death with bits of the wall and bits of scenery, then it did it. It did it exactly as it should. It felt real enough, and it felt good. And another example of a game that does something like this would be Revengeance. That game has a heck of a lot of murder in it. Just tons of murder. And the cutting mechanic is a great example of a mechanic that makes the game worth playing, because it is unique, it is empowering, it adds a whole different feel to the combat, it allows you to feel as though you are in control, it makes the murder worthwhile. It is one of those, it's a mechanic that makes it feel good to kill a random grunt. Because you can just slide in there, kick his feet out of under him, slice him in half long ways as you power slide under him and tear out his spine. And that is remarkably not only much more fun and creative and unique than anything in this game, but it is also far more violent, honestly. I mean, you've been watching this gameplay for a little while. There's nothing that violent about any of this comparatively. I mean, stuff like Manhunt has gone far, far worse. This has about the same amount of violence as your average Call of Duty game. It's literally just, you know, you have your metal tube filled with a high explosive, and this high explosive detonates, and the expanding gas propels a small piece of lead outward across the distance until it punctures a living human being and causes that person's vital signs to fail via exsanguination. It is textbook. It is very, very simple, very boring. It is literally just squeeze. It's a point and click game, except you're using bullets on man, and you're solving the puzzle of how do I make this man stop running around and making so much noise. So This thing really cries out for variety. That's one of the big things it needs. It needs, in my opinion, several things. Biggest of them being more variety and a better context. I'm not saying it... Well, let's go with variety first.
You reek of weakness.
If you've noticed, our weapons are just the most bog standard crap. It's a pistol, it's an AK-47, it's a shotgun. You get... All these weapons that you get are so nothing, so boring. So everyone has murdered somebody with a shotgun. Everyone has murdered somebody with a pistol. Everybody has murdered somebody with an Uzi and a rocket launcher and a submachine gun, etc., etc., etc. We've all done it. We've all stood over that homeless man in that alley and unloaded half a clip of Glock ammo while furiously masturbating. Don't lie to me, you've done it. We need freshness in this. How else are we going to maintain an erection if it's boring? Huh? How am I going to enjoy this if all I can do is use a variety of bullet tubes to make the bad man fall down? And what's worse about this is I don't understand why they wouldn't have more variety in there. And you may say, oh, well, they want to keep it realistic. The character's ability to heal via murder notwithstanding. But why not go full whole hog with this whole stupid 14-year-old power trip trench coat misanthrope fantasy? Give him a fucking katana. Give him a fucking katana and let me just run around like Japanese berserker style into these houses and slice away at it. Or a fire axe. Give me melee weapons so that I can use for when the bad police AI runs straight up into me. Give me a shotgun that feels good. Give me a shotgun that blows people in half, or give me like a flare gun that I can fire into buildings and it causes fires, or that I can shoot into people and it causes them to catch fire. Give me gasoline that I can lay tracks of, like in GTA 5 or in Coastal. Give me more abilities and items and ways to murder people so that I can extend the playable length of this game. Because when your only goal is murder and your playing area is like the levels aren't that varied, there's a fair deal of variety, but it's all realistic places. It's all just, you know, here is a sewer, here is a train station, here is a port town or whatever. It's like, it's all these things. These things only stay interesting for so long. These things only keep the flair for so long. And unless you start introducing things that give you new ways to do things, new varieties of murder with which to inflict upon people, then you really don't feel like doing it anymore, because it becomes a chore. Murdering all of these countless civilians and endlessly spawning police become not a fun act of catharsis, but a checklist, a thing where you look on your mini-map and see, oh, here are some red dots. I have to go make those red dots not red dots anymore, if that makes sense. And beyond the need for variety, I think there is also a really big need for a better context to this. And when I say that, I don't mean simply giving this guy a context other than wanting to murder people. The desire to want to murder people is a fine motivation. It is the reason why I get up every morning, go to work, so that I can, you know, get the money so I can buy my bullets, so that I can sit there and I can murder those homeless people, and so that I can get off. It is a fine motivation, and I don't have any problem with that as your basic motivation. But the problem I have is the context of the world, I should kind of say. In GTA 5, you have more to do than just murder, right? And when you have more to do than just murder, it makes the murder stand out. In GTA 5, one of the things that people always seem to do is after they've played around with the missions for a while and done everything, they save their game, and then they go on a killing spree. And they try to just last as long as they can until the cops get them. And that is the purest example of better context, I think. Because when you are able to do things other than just kill people, when it feels like a world exists around you and you are going against the laws of that world by doing what you are doing, it feels more real. It feels more like it has weight behind it, you know? When I can walk down the street and no one freaks out, and then I can just choose to whip out my silenced pistol, turn to a guy sitting on a bus bench, and just shoot him in the gut for no reason. And then everyone freaks out and runs away screaming, and if you stand around long enough, the police come. That sort of stuff that makes it feel like here is a living world in which you are aggressively going against its better intentions, makes the murder feel better. And while you don't have to have that in a lot of games, you have to have, there's always going to be some, I don't know how to put this, because it's like I've referenced Revengeance, and Revengeance is all about just murdering people, but it does it better because it's just better mechanically and has more variety mechanically, and it is framed as just an action game, whereas this seems to be framed as an open world thing. I'm not making much sense there. Context like that, and also I think it's just plain context in making the world seem more alive, making it seem like less of just a very sort of, you can get away with a game feeling video gamey if it is a deep and well-made video game. I think that's how Revengeance can do it, because even though Revengeance is very sort of, there's no real difference in what you're doing, it does have a story, and it does have, like, it does its gameplay very well, and it does it well enough to keep you interested, even though the story and everything is kind of silly and it's nothing but a linear series of fights, essentially. But here you don't really have a good enough gameplay system in order to get away with just nothing except it, and you don't have a good enough context and realism in the world for you to be able to get away with just doing nothing but murder and it not getting boring. It doesn't help that the AI is really kind of dumb. I don't know if you've noticed, but I am pretty effectively murdering this entire police station just by hanging out around this corner as the AI repeatedly runs civilians up to try and grab some pistol on the ground. Yeah, that doesn't help either. I don't know, guys. It is just lackluster. I can't really say much else about it. There's just not enough going on here to make it worthy of praise as a murder simulator. It's just not doing murder well enough. It's not giving me an erection, I suppose, is the simplest way to say it. It is not stimulating the powerful feelings that you would normally get by doing something like this in GTA or any other sandbox where you're not supposed to be doing it. It feels way too... oh, I don't even know the right word for it. Pandering? Like... it reminds me a lot of a game called Running with Rifles, in a way. It's like, if you've ever played Running with Rifles, I may show that off at some point. It's a lot like Running with Rifles if they removed all of the fact that you're fighting against another huge team and just kept the kind of watered down shooting, and then filled it with a bunch of hot topic. Like this is any isometric shooter in the world if it fell in a vat of angst. Literally, like if this game, if you replaced every human enemy in this with zombies, no one would care. If every enemy in here was zombies instead of living civilians, no one would have cared. This would be on no one's radar, because it would be just so generic. If you strip it of its pretense of being about murder, then there's nothing to it. I mean, it does have an interesting art style with the black and white, and it does have fairly good destructible environments, but stripped of the pretense of being, you know, your shooting spree simulator, it is just a very generic, uninteresting game. And there are a lot of real failures of it. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but there's maybe like 15 or 20 civilian designs, and the men and women look almost like identical. The women, there's no one with long hair. All the women have very close cut, like crew cuts, or hair pulled back in a very small ponytail. The only guy with long hair here is your main character, and his seems to have a kind of weird, hazy ghosting effect around it. Like, there's just a lot that's not very well done. I hate to say it, there's just... all of it is functional, all of it is acceptable, all of it is bog standard. Nothing in it stands out. There's no mechanic here that I can say, like, stand up and say, oh yeah, this is great. This makes me really enjoy the murder. It's like Fear. What did you get behind Fear? Fear, you had great slow-mo and great AI. What'd you get in Revengeance? Oh, you had the slicing mechanic and good fighting gameplay. What did you get in GTA? Oh, you get the big open world and the different characters and stuff. This has no real character. The worlds are not really open. They're very constrained, very repetitive areas. The AI is... it's not horrible, but it's not great by any stretch of the imagination. The weapons are acceptable, but boring. There's nothing special about them. There's nothing that really stands out about them. The gameplay is very repetitive. It's just... everything here is kind of disappointing. Not aggravating, not offensive, not like unacceptable, just kind of boring. And just kind of like it doesn't have enough to keep you interested. Ironically, this game about nothing but murder doesn't have enough to keep you interested. I guess that's my kind of opinions on that. I sometimes feel almost like going off on a rant about all of this current trend in video games with the sexism, racism, and Tumblrisms of increasing desire for social justice and all that sort of stuff, but I'll save that for a different video, or I may not make a video about it at all if nobody fucking wants to hear me whine about that crap. So, yeah. In general, Hatred is... it's very meh. It's definitely not worth 20 fucking bucks. Maybe like in a Steam sale, it'd be worth like between $3 and $5. because it's a fairly short game and it's not that great, but it will kill some time, and it's worth it's some shallow catharsis, I guess. But it is severely lacking. As somebody who loves himself some murder, as somebody who just has a great respect for a game giving him the capacity to act like a complete fucking psychopath in a variety of ways, I can say that this just doesn't do it. It's just not that great. It's like a 5 out of 10 on the actual 1 to 10 scale, how it should be used. If we're using it in like the modern way where everyone's expectations are going higher and higher and higher, and now if the game gets an 8, it's unacceptable. It would probably be around a 7. It's like I've said over and over, it's just not that special. It's just not that interesting. It's very meh.
You don't deserve a natural death.